From the 1st to the 30th of August, members of the Green Party of England and Wales will be electing a new leadership team. Now, there's been a lot of attention, both from the party membership and from the wider media, on the battle for the leadership between Zach Polanski, the party's current deputy leader, on the one hand, and the job share team of Adrian Ramsey and Ellie Chowns, two of the Greens' four MPs. But that's not the only contest going on at the moment. There's also an election for the deputy leadership of the party, and there are no fewer than 9 candidates in the running. Bright Green is going to be interviewing all, hopefully, of those candidates. And today I was joined by Frank Adlington-Stringer, who is a councillor in Derbyshire. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Before we get going, please make sure you scroll down right now and hit subscribe. Without further ado, I thought I'd open with hopefully quite a straightforward question, which is just why do you think that you are best placed to be the next deputy leader of the Green Party?
I think that's the question that we're all asking, right? And for me, I made the decision to stand for deputy leader because I think that the party needs to get ready for this changing political landscape. Over the last few years, I've been working on election campaigns for the party. I've been employed as a campaign manager. I've worked in Bristol, in London, across the West Midlands. I've helped Greens get elected as a breakthrough in an area that's never had a Green councillor before. And I've also taken Greens into administration and helped them prepare to be a target constituency. So I feel I've worked on a really broad range of campaigns, seen what works, what doesn't, how we win in rural areas and urban areas, blue seats, red seats. And I want to take some of that skills and experience to the National Party as we look ahead to what we do next. But it's not just about our bread and butter and what we know how to do and how to win elections. It's also, in the face of reform, how we make sure that we're cutting through. And in the last local elections here in Derbyshire, I ran a county council campaign, which was to the book. It was a target campaign where we had 20 people out every weekend. We had Greens organised involved. We had Natalie Bennett and Jenny Jones come and visit. We did everything we could, and we lost to a reform candidate that never knocked a door and doesn't live in the local area. Now, that shows that there is a problem with our strategy, that we can go out and we can work hard and we do these really excellent ground campaigns, but that we're not cutting through enough nationally. And if we can raise our national profile in the polls by just a few percentage points, then we can, rising tides lift all boats, right? And we can help everybody, and we can make sure that we get more and more Greens elected. And I think I can do that, given that I've got a really strong social media presence, the strongest of all the deputy candidates standing in this election, stronger than some of our members of parliament. We need to be able to talk to people in a different way, in a common sense way, in an engaging way. And so I really feel that there's a moment now that leadership needs to step up, that the party needs to step up, and we need to think about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and are we doing best practice, and what does that look like? I really want to go out and do that job, help local parties, put the time in, the effort to go and visit places, and to make sure that we're doing the best we can. I'm really excited about that, and it just feels like the right next step for me, and hopefully the party as well. And just really, really privileged to be able to offer that to the party and hopefully take us forward in that next step.
So you touched on it a little bit there in that response, but also it's been a central sort of element of your campaign that you've talked about the Green Party needing to improve and up its game when it comes to online communications. What does that look like in practice?
I mean, so at the moment, we've only got one person doing our social media nationally. And that's something that that relies on getting more fundraising. That means being able to employ more staff, and that's obviously core to what we need to do as parties to grow and to expand. And so that's part of what needs to happen. But at the same time, we have so many committed activist volunteers that work so hard, and we need to make sure that those that do have a presence are uplifted. Hopefully, I can do that from a deputy leadership position. Whoever I'm sharing that role with, or if there's leaders, need to make sure that they're on their game as well. I think that we need to get better. We need to wise up in terms of being able to put content out there. Unfortunately, we seem to be in a political environment at the moment where everyone talks about reform and compares themselves to reform. But if you look at what is cutting through in social media, it's good candidates, it's people talking about the things they believe in, it's passion, it's authenticity. That's what cuts through. So yeah, we need to have a really good national party profile, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we've got Greens who are able to communicate that themselves through their own channels and to be able to build a platform and represent their community. So a large part of what I'm talking about is making sure that we as a party have the outreach necessary to go to communities where we're going to get Greens elected over the next few years, find great, diverse candidates who are going to represent the areas that they live, and that we give them the tools, the experience, the knowledge to be able to speak up for the places that they represent. And that's something which I think we failed to do a little bit. At times we've been, and I understand why, I've been a staff member in the party, I understand why it's so important that we focus our strategy whilst we stick to what we're doing and whilst we make sure that the party takes on that learning. I think we're at a point now where we'll understand Target to Win, how it works and why it works, and that's integral to the party. The next step is making sure that we can step up and give everyone these tools to, okay, how do you do the next bit? How do we encourage you to do this? Because I think previously we've tried to prevent people from reaching out in other platforms. How do we make this work?
And so, in terms of the sort of next steps for the Green Party, we're having this conversation sort of 12 months after the last general election when the Greens broke through, moving from 1 to 4 parliamentary seats. How many seats do you think the Greens should be targeting at the next general election?
Ambition is central to what I'm standing for. I think the party has to be big and bold and brave and want to just go for as many seats as we can win realistically. And we shouldn't limit ourselves. We really shouldn't limit ourselves. We need to be out there saying that we can get Greens elected anywhere in the country, and we need to be trying to make that happen. Now, obviously, we need to be sensible about how we have limited resources, how we make sure we funnel that into the best places to get Greens elected. We've got a great staff team that will be doing that, will be working with campaigns and targets, but there shouldn't be this attitude. I think sometimes we lack the self-confidence to go out there and say, oh, we can't win here. And I think sometimes we feel that in our communities. We as the Green Party are on the up. And if Reform have taught us anything, it's that a party can break through and a party can be popular and a party can have success across the country. We are there. We are getting there. Don't get me wrong. There's this big threat about Nigel Farage and Reform. We are there. We are breaking through as well. We got the same number of MPs elected as them at the general election. We can do this. We are doing this, but we need to believe in ourselves. And so a big part of that for me is taking this challenge on and saying, right, let's go and get not 4 MPs elected, but 40. Hell, let's do more than that. I really want us to be brave and to go for it.
And so, I guess the question that comes from that is, say, if you're talking about 40 seats or even more, what needs to change when it comes to the Green Party strategy? Because at the moment, you've talked about Target to Win earlier on. For viewers who don't know, Target to Win is essentially the electoral strategy that the Greens have adopted over the last few years, which is to heavily focus resources into a small number of council seats and, in some instances, parliamentary seats. That's a very resource intensive method of electioneering. It requires you to essentially be incredibly disciplined and to pour activists from across a whole council area in the case of council seats, or indeed the whole country in the case of parliamentary constituencies. And the question really is then, how scalable is that from 4 parliamentary seats to something like 40 when you can't throw the kitchen sink at those seats in the same way? So how would you sort of scale up the Green Party's success in that sense in order to be able to deliver that in a way that, you know, is sustainable and can genuinely deliver that number of MPs?
It's twofold for me, that approach. So we've got something that works. We know it works. We've got that beautiful graph which shows the number of councillors rapidly increasing over the years that we've had Target to Win. We've seen it in the last general election with our number of MPs. But what we need to do is to make it easier to get Greens elected. So we can continue. I think it's a Green Party way of getting people elected to be in your community, speaking about the issues that matter. That's so important to us. It's not just an electoral strategy, it's actually the way that we want to go out and win elections. We want to be talking to people about the things that matter most to them. So I want us to continue doing what we do so well, but let's make it easier. And if we can have a national party that cuts through, if we can have a message that people actually identify with. When you speak to voters, when you ask people what they think about the Green Party, they think that we love trees, they think that we care about climate change, and that's great. It's really good. We do. But it's not enough. I mean, even myself, right, as an elected Green councillor, as someone who's represented the party in parliamentary elections and in a mayoral election, I don't know what the Green Party's national message is. I don't know. The other parties have had stop the boats, they've had get Brexit done. The Labour Party had change. those things, some to lesser degrees, cut through with the public. We need to have that same message that cuts through and people understand what it means. And I think that we're really missing that. So for me, it's about having really good messaging and comms nationally and having a leadership team that are able to speak to people and to really raise the profile of the party. And if we can do that, if we can get up in the polls. I mean, this is a 1 year term that we're talking about. We're electing leadership team for 1 year. This isn't about going into the next general election. This is about preparing the groundwork for it. If we can get up in the polls, if we can leapfrog the Conservatives or the Liberal Democrats, if we can get to a point, then we can get councillors elected far more easily. In Worcester, I was working on a campaign. We came short by 26 votes. If you're up in the polls by just a few more percentage points, naturally that gap would be filled. And it would make it so much easier when we're looking at the general election for all these second places that we've got, all these areas where we can cut through and we can get Greens elected. But we need to have a stronger national message. So I think these things go hand in hand. Let's keep the ground campaigning. Let's make it easier for everyone else.
So what is that national message then? What do you think should be central to the party's messaging?
I think it's slowly coming out. I think that we're feeling that we're getting there. And I think that the talking about taxing the rich, equalizing society, the cost of living crisis is really important to what we're doing. I think when we talk about the national state of the country, everyone knows that Britain's broken, but we've got to start to talk about things with the positivity and the hope, which is so authentic to us. I think talking about the way that our country's been stripped of its assets, that our country feels like it's been sold for scrap, I think that is what people are really going to resonate with. And when they look around and they feel that their high street has disappeared, when they feel that they can't get an NHS appointment, these are things that people feel. And when they look to a party who says, we want to invest in your community, we have a way to do this, we want to take just a 1%, that's all we're talking about, for taxing of the richest, to be able to invest into your communities, to restore the places we live. That's what we're talking about. All we are as Greens, really, is talking about loving the places that we live. And if we can get that message across to people, that we're not just here, and I think that people have this idea sometimes, to mandate, you can't drive your car, you can't do this, you can't do that, and we're going to make life miserable for people. If we can actually show a pathway to a better society, if we can show that we've got the answers to the problems, to the questions that people are asking, which I know we have as a party, I think we are in such a fortunate position of having such great policy. It's about communicating that well, being really snappy with it, being able to talk about it in a way on social media where you only have a minute of somebody's attention. If we can get that messaging across, then I think that's the key to success.
So you've pitched there a sort of, I guess, you could characterize it as a left-wing populist messaging strategy. Now, the context in which we're having this conversation in is that over the last few weeks, it's become clear that some form of new left party or organization is going to be established. We've seen Zara Sultana publicly saying that she's intending to launch a new political party with Jeremy Corbyn. It's not yet clear what form that party will take, when it will be launched, and so on. But it looks likely that in the next general election, there will be another political party that will be very much fishing in the same pool of voters that are keen on the kind of messaging and narrative that you've talked about there. How do you think, assuming that party does come into existence and is standing candidates in the next general election, how do you think the Greens should be responding to it?
Well, it's really hard to talk about this for a party that doesn't yet exist. We don't know who's going to lead that party. We don't know what its policies are actually going to be. And so whether we can work effectively with another party, it's just too hypothetical to be able to, I think, go down that route at the moment. I think it's really important that we have more friends than enemies. I think that the way that we talk about electoral reform, we want to make sure we see a plurality of voices and that we want Parliament to be really representative. But the one thing that I do know for sure is that we now have time. There's a suggestion of this party which has been launched in a very strange way. There seems to be disagreement about it. It feels like it might take a little while to figure out the detail. We have time. We have a leadership election where we can make sure that we capitalize, where we make sure we protect the work that we've done, and we make sure that we are, because we are, the biggest left-wing party in Britain. And we are a home for everybody to be able to come here, to be able to participate, to be heard, and to feel like they're part of a movement that's growing. not something that's just having its moment in the sun whilst Jeremy Corbyn gets organised. We are the biggest left-wing party. And so we've got to continue growing. And all I'm going to do, my focus as deputy leader, is going to be get more Greens elected to cut through and to grow our national message. And that's the responsibility of all of us. And if we want to negotiate with someone else, if we want to have a partnership with someone else, we need to be in the strongest possible position to be able to get what works for us. Because when Jeremy Corbyn was leader of the Labour Party, he refused to work with the Green Party. When we tried to get a deal with the Liberal Democrats, we came out of that general election with no more seats. We didn't gain anything from that. So if we are going to be doing electoral pacts, which I am very, very wary of, then we need to be in the strongest position possible. And for the first time, we need to be the largest partner in that negotiation.
So you said there that you're very, very wary of electoral pacts. Talk me through why that is.
Because of our history with this, because of a party that's tried to work with other parties and has constantly had its fingers burnt, because we've always been asking the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats to work with us, and they've consistently gone, the Labour Party's consistently tried to unseat Caroline Lucas. We have never been given any comfort, any reassurance. And we as a party just have to continue being strong and winning elections. And I don't think we are in a position, 4 MPs is great. It isn't enough of a foot in the door to be able to be relaxed about this, to be able to be comfortable about this. There are enormous political machines out there that can throw the money at this to wipe us out. And we are in a fight for survival, and we have to get stronger and be bigger. And so I really want the Green Party to make sure that we're in a position where we can protect ourselves and make sure we've got Green representation. Because if Jeremy Corbyn's party with Zara Sultana doesn't come to fruition, then what's left if we're wiped out as well? We have to make sure that we as the Greens are really, really strong. I'm a member of the Green Party. I care about the Green Party. It is a party that exists, that is out there doing the work that we want, that those people that are dreaming of this new party, we're here doing it already. So let's continue doing the work we're doing and make sure we're in the best position possible.
So I'm going to move on from the sort of questions around electoral strategy, and in a moment I'm going to ask you some sort of quick fire policy questions. But before we get to that, I wanted to raise with you something that has been, I guess, a criticism of some of your campaign or your political history that has been arousing some interest online. One of the criticisms that you faced is that sort of allegations that you have opposed solar farms in your local area. Tell us what's behind that story.
I am not on the planning committee of my council. I've never voted for or against any application. I have had 2 solar farms proposed in the area that I stand as a councillor. One was before I was elected. Another one was very, very recently. I have made public comments on both of those applications. The first one would have taken up swathes of countryside. I would have had fencing all the way around it and CCTV, was owned by a German company and wouldn't have employed anyone in the local area. It wasn't the kind of application that I thought we should have in our community. And so I spoke out about that, and I said that that was an inappropriate thing. It wasn't going to be a community energy project. It wasn't going to bring investment into our local area. That isn't what I believe in a green transition, because yes, we can go and get loads of solar and renewables, but if we don't talk about the means of production, who owns that, where that investment goes, then was the transition really worth doing at all? If the rich keep hold of all of our assets and it's not actually giving our community cheaper bills. So another application came up very recently in the area I represent, 2 minutes from my house. I can walk to it, and I'm in favour of it. It's going to have mammal gates so that foxes and badgers can still access that land. It's going to have wildflowers. It's going to take some of its profits and give that to the parish council so that they can invest back into the community. So for me, I find it quite funny that people have decided to try and talk about me as being anti-solar, in the same way that if I said, this housing project isn't suitable would make me anti-housing, or if I, any other infrastructure project, if I said it wasn't suitable. What we as Greens do, what we as local councillors have to do, is defend our communities and fight for the best version of any project that we can get. That's what I'm here to do. So yeah, that project wasn't great. I'm not going to support it. If you come along with something really good that I think is going to bring investment to our area, it's going to bring positivity to our community, then great, I'm all for it. if you're going to come and engage with me, like this second solar farm did, where they actually came and talked to councillors and laid out their plans and made sure that it was accessible for all of us, then that's a great place to start from. And so for me, it's about the quality of something. I'm not going to say I'm pro solar and therefore every solar farm that comes, I'm going to green light and think is brilliant. It's just about looking at things on a case by case basis. And I really hope that people would expect nothing less from me.
Thanks for setting that out, Frank. So I'm now going to move on to my quickfire questions. And the rules of this section is I'm going to really encourage you to only give yes or no answers to these. I'm going to try and be quite disciplined, but we'll see how you do. My first question for you is, should the UK remain a member of NATO?
I think that's, I mean, currently party policy is yes, and I think it's for members to decide what happens next. I know there's an internal conversation happening about that, and I think it's really important that we remember that we as leadership aren't here to decide policy. We are here to communicate that in the best way we can, and I will do my best to always push for peace. I want there to be more conversations about big ideas and doing things differently, because I think the international stage has lost all ambition and hope. I do think, and I will say, I've said this before and I will say it again, I do think we're better inside the room than outside the room, as we've seen with Brexit. I do think that we as Britain need to start using our weight on the international scene a lot more, and that we need to have our influence, our ability to bring countries with us. I think we need to use that to our advantage. But I'm not going to say yes or no to that. I think that's for members to decide.
That was definitely not a yes or no answer, but I'll try
Definitely
again
wasn't.
on the second one. Is overpopulation a significant issue that needs tackling when we're addressing the climate emergency?
No.
Should HS2 be completed in full?
Yes, but we need better investment for rail in the north of England and projects that are far better than that was.
Almost a one word answer. Does nuclear power have a role in a sustainable energy system?
No.
Should the UK rejoin the EU?
Yes.
Should people who publicly oppose the Green Party's position on trans rights be allowed to remain in the party?
No.
And finally, is ecological sustainability possible under capitalism?
No.
So you were much more disciplined at the end of those questions, but I wanted to give you an opportunity if you wanted to elaborate on any of those responses.
I think the one thing to say is that, and what I love about the Green Party is that we make our policy as members. And I think that that internal discussion that we have is so important, and that we need to be able to come together and have honest, frank conversation in a way which is compassionate, and we listen to each other and we don't have aggression and infighting, and that we actually really welcome healthy debate. And so I really want to encourage that in our party, but it needs to, and I think it's so important that we say this and we caveat this conversation, is that it needs to be a safe space, and that we know what our principles are, we know what we stand for, and we know what we will and won't allow. And within that, spectrum of the policy that we have and our principles, we will encourage really good debate to get the best policy we can, because iron sharpens iron, and because we really want to be a party which has great policy. But there are limits to that, and I think it's really important that we do stand by the things that we have agreed as a membership.
So what are those limits? Talk to me about what you think those limits should be.
Trans rights is one of those that really matters to me. And I think it's so important that we make sure that we're clear. We've been through this conversation as a party. I don't think we can allow it to continue to drag us down as it has. We should be proud of the policy position we've got. We are ahead of the curve in terms of where the political parties are at. And we need to continue to be a safe space for trans people, for the whole of the LGBTIQA plus community. And for me, that's the red line. We need to make sure we deal with that in a sensible way, and that we're having really good conversations about our policy going forward, including all voices in that, to get to the best possible place. But there are red lines, and people can't be in the party if they're actively harming others and saying things that go against what we stand for.
Thanks for elaborating on that, Frank. So for those who've watched any of these interviews in the past will know that I try and end these with a series of slightly less serious questions. And I think they're useful, but we'll see how you get on. So the first one is, there have been 5 deputy leaders in the Green Party's history. Who do you think's been the best?
I have great respect for Amelia Womack.
Talk to me about why you pick Amelia.
I think she did the job really, really well. I think Amelia travelled the country, the length and breadth of it, and made sure she was there for every action day and was a real activist. And I love the way that she would go out there as well and confront the media and just lead the party in a way which I thought was really radical and bold. And yeah, I think she did a fantastic job as deputy leader.
So my second question is, I'm assuming that you're going to be giving your first preference in the deputy leadership election to yourself. Who will be getting your second preference?
I'm not sure if I'm able to answer that question without us being our internal election rules don't allow us to have endorse others and have slates. So I don't know if I'm actually allowed to answer that question.
At least one of the other candidates who I've interviewed has answered that question. It's up to you whether you wish to or not. If you don't wish to, then talk to me about some qualities that you like in the other candidates.
Yeah, I mean, I've made the decision, and a lot of the other candidates, deputy leader candidates, have endorsed members of the leadership. I've made the decision not to do that because I think it's up to members to decide who they want to lead the party, and I want to leave that decision with them. You can see the platform that I'm offering, and you can think about who you might want me to work with or not. But it's for me ultimately, come September when these elections have been and gone, to get on and do the job with whoever else is elected, whoever else the party decides should be in those roles, and we have to be one party, right? After these elections, we can't fall out about it. We've got to go on and get the job done and do what's right for the party, for our best interests, to go and win more elections and to be the best we possibly can be, and to try and have those good working relationships. So I'm not endorsing a leadership candidate, and I won't be doing the same in any of the other elections. But I want to see people that are passionate, that care about the future of not just our country, but our communities, who work hard locally, those that can go out and can hold themselves in the media, those that are able to really hold their own, that have experience, that are able to speak up for the party in a way which we haven't always been able to. And I want to see those that believe in electoral strategy, going out and winning elections, getting more Greens elected, the party not just becoming a protest movement, but actually being a real serious political force. I think it's so important that we maintain that, and that we'll stand up for the marginalised in society, whether that be trans LGBTIQA plus people, whether that be the global majority Greens, whether that be Palestine, people who are really bold and are able to stand up for their principles and aren't going to budge on that. They know what they stand for and they'll do the job as they're elected to do.
What is your favourite Green Party policy?
That's a great question. I mean, I love that we don't have a whip. I think that that's really great. I think that's something that allows us to have great community representation. I mean, I'm spoiled for choice in our party. And another thing, I think this is something which I think is key to our success and to our democracy is having political education. That's something that really, really matters to me. Ensuring that people leave school knowing who the prime minister is and why they should vote. I think that's something that's really important and that we have to achieve. It's just crucial to the future of our country.
Do you know what question is coming next? What is your least favourite Green Party policy?
I mean, yeah, there are some policies, and I mean, like GMO foods and fluoride, that are a little bit out of date. And I think, I don't know, maybe we should have a mechanism for bringing things back to conference that need review after a certain period of time. There are definitely things that we've got that are a little bit, that seem to be a little bit RFK at the moment. So we have to make sure that we don't have those policies anymore. And I also think that there's, and this isn't a least favorite thing, but I think that there's work that we should be doing about when we talk about all of our nations, Scotland, the two islands, Wales and England, and talking about devolution in a better way and in a way that talks about England as well and our own parliament. And I think there's some work we need to do around policy there to really make sure that we feel like we are sorting out this Westminster bubble and this London problem that we've got, which takes power away from our communities. So I think that there's more work we need to do there as well.
The final question I have for you, Frank, is who in the Green Party inspires you the most?
Such a tough question. That's such a tough question. we're a party full of such wonderful, such lovely people. I'm not going to be diplomatic with my answer. And I'm going to say a name which nobody's going to know. And I'm going to say Darren Yates, who is in my local party. He's my local chair. When I first joined the party, me and him and a couple of others sat in a pub and we built this thing from scratch here in Derbyshire. And he's been with me throughout my entire Green Party journey and never given up and always done everything he can to help get Green representation for our community. And I just think that's absolutely admirable. And people like that deserve so much more recognition than they currently get.
I'm sure Darren will be very, very pleased to hear that. Frank, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that interview. If you did, somebody else will do too. So make sure you share this wherever you can. If you want to keep up to date with everything Bright Green is doing, make sure you hit subscribe, and why not give this video a like while you're at it. Thanks, and I'll see you very, very soon.